and welcome back to my channel. So today's video is actually one that has kind of been highly requested. I think I've had about 10 or so people ask me in the past week to make more videos regarding hermit crabs, heat, and humidity, so I decided that's what I was going to do for you guys today. All of these methods, tips, and tricks that I'm about to tell you are just ways that I have found that work best for me and my hermit crabs, as well as ways that I have heard and learned about other people keeping humidity and heat in their tanks. Also, there are many different types of species of crabs that you can keep in captivity, from fiddler crabs to land hermit crabs and saltwater hermit crabs. But this video is just going to be pertaining to land hermit crabs. Obviously, you should always do your own research and find a way that works best for you and your hermit crabs. So when talking about heat and humidity in a hermit crab tank, you'll find out pretty quickly that you can't really have one without the other. Hermit crabs need both heat and humidity to be able to breathe in their crabbitat. Hermit crabs So there are a couple different ways you can provide your hermit crab with adequate heat in their tank. One way, and the most common way, is using a hood light on your aquarium. Regardless of whether you have a 10 or a 20 gallon, you can buy a hood light for your aquarium and it will work great for keeping heat and humidity in your tank. Now, I use incandescent bulbs, but you can use UVA UVB bulbs. As you can see here, I have a 20 gallon long hood light. Heat is a very important thing to maintain and balance in your hermit crab tank. You generally want to shoot for anywhere from 72 degrees to about 80 degrees. Now, I choose to use a hood light as opposed to a mesh top because not only does it keep the heat in there, but it also keeps moisture in there as well. So I highly recommend, if you have a 10 or 20 gallon or 40 gallon tank for your hermit crabs, that you use a hood light. My tank can be anywhere between 71 and about 74 degrees. And I find that that works best for my hermit crab. You can also use a UVA UVB bulb for your hermit crab tank. I choose to use incandescent. Some people also use heat lamps like you would for a reptile tank or a tortoise tank. When using a heat bulb and a heat lamp in a reptile tank, it's usually a very isolated spot that gets really, really hot because reptiles can't make their own body heat and hermit crabs are the exact same way. However, I find that with heat lamps, you run the risk of overheating your hermit crabs, drying them out, and possibly killing them. Now, obviously, if you're very, very careful and you make sure that your heat lamp is lifted up high enough off the tank to where it's not overheating the tank, it would probably work just fine. I just personally don't recommend it. Now, while having the lights over your hermit crab tank is obviously a necessity, there is another option that you can use for under tank heat, and that is heat pads. Now, there are a couple different brands that you can get in these heat pads, and they also come in different sizes from the pet store. But basically, the idea is that not only does the lighting keep the top of your tank warm and the inside warm, but that the heat pad will also keep the substrate warm as well. Now, I personally don't use an under tank heater, but that's because I live in the southern states. If you live in a state up north where it's a lot colder in the year than it is warm, you really may want to consider investing in an under tank heater. Now, whether you choose to use just the hood light or the hood light and the under tank heat, make sure that you always use some sort of a thermometer if you're not sure, to make sure that that temperature always stays between 72 and 80. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is humidity, and you'll find that humidity and heat go hand in hand when it comes to hermit crabs. Now, once you have the lighting and heat figured out for your tank, then it's time to figure out how to keep that tank humid for your crabs. Hermit crabs breathe through gills on their sides, and they have to breathe very humid and moist air. If the air is too dry in your tank and there's no humidity, the hermit crabs can't breathe properly through their gills, and it can cause them to basically suffocate. Now, the easiest way to monitor the levels of heat and humidity in your tank is to get not only a thermostat, but also a hydrometer. You can usually get them pretty cheap at the pet store, and then you just stick them on the inside of your tank, and that will help you monitor the levels. You should always shoot for 70% humidity or higher for your hermit crabs. First, I'm going to tell you, for me personally, the way that I keep my humidity levels balanced in my tank. Misting your tank down is a great way to keep the air warm and moist in your tank and making sure those humidity levels stay pretty high. Having a freshwater and saltwater pool in your tank also helps with the humidity levels, as well as making sure that whatever substrate you use for your hermit crabs is a very moisture-dense substrate. If you have a substrate that dries out really quickly and doesn't hold moisture, you're going to find that you're going to struggle really hard to keep that level of humidity at 70% or higher. I choose to use coco coir in my hermit crab tank, as you guys know, and I find that it holds moisture great. When you go to put the substrate in your hermit crab tank, you can spray it down really well, making sure that it's very damp, but not soaking wet, and then putting that in your hermit crab tank. And then following up with daily or every other day spray downs of the tank will keep that substrate nice and moist for your hermit crabs. For me personally, the freshwater saltwater pool, having moist substrate and spraying the tank down every other day works perfectly for keeping my tank humid. However, if you feel like your tank isn't humid enough and by spraying it down, having moist substrate and a salt and freshwater pool isn't working for you, there are a couple of other ways that you can add extra humidity to your hermit crabs. So another way that's very common that I used to do, I've seen a lot of people do, and I've actually seen pet stores do this, which is like the only thing they've probably ever done right for their hermit crabs, is using something called a humid hide. So this method is very easy. All you need is some damp reptile moss, which you can pick up at the pet store. You can use a bowl with a hole cut out in it that's upside down, or you can actually just use a plastic hidey house, a log, really anything that you have that has some sort of a little gap underneath it for the hermit crab to go in and out. Another DIY way I've seen people do this is just taking a bowl, cutting a hole entryway into it, and then putting the damp moss inside, putting that in your tank, and then just letting it build up that humidity. This is a very popular way to keep humidity in your tank, and it works really, really well, and it also gives the hermit crabs a great place to escape to. Now, if you already have your freshwater, your saltwater dish, you're spraying your tank down every other day, you have moist substrate, and you have a humid hide for your hermit crab, and you find that you're still having issues with keeping humidity, then maybe this last tip will work for you. So another way, and a lesser known way of keeping humidity in a tank, is using something called an aerator. Now, you don't see a lot of people using this method because it is a little more technical, and it's usually reserved for bigger hermit crab tanks. So the way you would use this to provide humidity in your hermit crab tank is you would hook this on the side of your tank, you would put the filter into a shallow water dish, shallow enough for your hermit crabs to get in and out of, turn it on, and then it will pump air into the water. Not only will it provide air in the water, but it keeps the water moving. Keeping the water moving in combination with the heat from your light will put humidity into your tank. Now, I've seen this done many different ways, and you can obviously buy much more attractive aerators, but it does work if you're looking for additional humidity in your tank. Okay guys, that is it for this video. I hope that all of these tips were helpful for you guys in keeping your tank heated and humid. One thing to remember, guys, is that hermit crabs are a lot hardier than you think they are. As long as you've done your research, you're giving them everything they need and providing them with proper care, they're gonna be okay. But I hope this video helped you guys. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you haven't seen my other hermit crab videos, I will link them all down below as usual. I will see you guys in my next video. Be kind. Bye.